What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of JaAR. You lucky people get to get 2 episodes of JaAR in 1 week. If you're new here, JaAR stands for Joe
and Amy
Review, and we are here once again to talk about another bit of Shadows over Innistrad's story. I have never mentioned this, and this is a thing that Amy talks about frequently, and I keep forgetting to talk about it. But if you want to talk about this show, obviously hashtag JaAR is a thing. You can check us out on Twitter when we tweet about the show. That's what we say. But as well, something that Amy came up with is hashtag Vorthos Pride. Vorthos is what we are as players. We are Vorthos players. I'm a filthy casual. It's just what I am. But I'm also Vorthos. I love these stories, as you guys can obviously tell. Amy does as well. Clearly, that's what got her invested in the cards in the game to begin with. So hashtag Vorthos Pride if you guys want to talk about this, if you guys want some of your friends to be a Vorthos, if you are a Vorthos, speak it out, say it loud, say it proud, in the comments of this video on Facebook, on Twitter, hashtag Vorthos Pride. So we're here today to talk about episode 5 of the Shadows over Innistrad story, which is the mystery of Markov Manor, and that is Jace Beleren, coming to Innistrad, not listening to Liliana because she was kind of being a jerk when she was telling him about it, and going to Markov Manor anyway because he really wants to find Sorin because he needs to talk about the Eldrazi on Zendikar. He needs to talk to Sorin about the Eldrazi and about the fact that they're dead, but that Emrakul wasn't there, and so they need to see where Emrakul is. There's talk and there's rumor about the fact that Emrakul is on Innistrad and is the one who is doing this, and I just can't, I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm willing to be wrong if Eldritch Moon comes out and, it turns out that Emrakul is in the moon, which a lot of people have been saying, or if she is underground or in the planet somewhere. That's fine, I'm willing to be wrong, but I genuinely don't think it's her. I think that'll come up later. But regardless, not what we're talking about here. So Jace is getting into Markov Manor. He's getting mind games played on him, which is kind of funny because that doesn't happen to Jace. Jace is the one who plays the mind games. They keep talking about his telekinesis. They keep talking about how he's not a good telekinetic, that he can barely use his strength with telekinesis, and that it's only based on his own physical strength, and that the farther he gets away from himself, the weaker his telekinesis is. I guess that's okay. Again, I think they're making him look a little weak, and especially combined with him and Oath of the Gatewatch. If he's the Mickey Mouse of the franchise, you'd think that he would be super overpowered and just amazing, and I don't know,
I wouldn't.
Fair enough. Well, and honestly, we know that in the cards themselves, right? Jace the Mind Sculptor, Jace Vern's Prodigy. I mean, these cards are insane, right? They're worth a large amount of money. They're incredible in their formats.
Well, but on Innistrad, Jace isn't that good.
He's out of his element.
And that's why this Jace card isn't that good.
And they did do a callback to Jace talking to Liliana 2 stories ago, or 2 episodes ago, if you watched our previous episode, when Liliana mentioned to him, the werewolves aren't that big of a deal. The angels are what you have to worry about. And Jace kind of brushed it off. He was like, whatever, you just don't like angels because they go against all of the evil stuff that you're doing. But now that he picked up Tamio's journal, which we saw depicted in a card, that card was spoiled a while ago, but he finally picked up Tamio's journal, and looking inside of Tamio's journal, Tamio was writing about Avacyn, which I find interesting because I guess that means that there must have been a big span of time between the second story that we read that talked about Avacyn, and when she was good and when she kind of first snapped and started realizing humans are the monsters just like vampires and werewolves are the monsters, and the time now where Jace has traveled there, that there has to be an insane span of time. And
but they kind of pointed that out a little bit in one of the other stories. I can't remember which one.
I remember having written that down where it was
they kind of let you know that there was a time lapse there.
Yeah, but that there's been a year. I think they said a year. And I mean,
oh, did they say?
I thought. Correct us if we're wrong in the comments down below. That'd be super helpful. I feel like it was a year, and I feel like, to be honest, I feel like I talked about this a couple of episodes ago, but it's been a while, so I don't exactly remember. But I think it was a year where they said that it's been a year since the last Innistrad block, when Avacyn was released from the Hell Vault, which was the story of Avacyn Restored, the last set of the last Innistrad block. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. It could be 3 years. That time is also kind of jumbled around in my head here, but regardless, it's because Tamio's journal is being held by this, I think his name was Genric, who's the guy who Jace is getting kind of residual memories from inside of Markov Manor, and then finds the poor guy shoved in a wall with all the other vampires, thanks to Nahiri, which Jace doesn't know that it was Nahiri, but we do because we've seen all the spoiled cards. Declaration in Stone combined with the Nahiri the Harbinger card, where you can see Markov Manor just completely destroyed behind her, which also, I appreciate the storytelling symbolism in Markov Manor, because Markov Manor as a place is indicative of what Innistrad is as a whole right now. You know what it's supposed to look like by looking at the picture of it, but it's wrong.
Yeah.
There's things that are wrong about it. The bridge leading up to it is all disjointed and the stones are all over the place. You can still get to it, but not the right way. You kind of have to jump from stone to stone, and some of them waver a little bit. You know, they talk about that in this story. The kind of the buttresses and the spires of the castle are broken, but they're still like hanging there, and that doesn't seem super weird to Jace. Like, he's just like, all right, whatever, I gotta jump from these stones, and all those things are like that, and like, you know, that seems abnormal. They talked about the entrance to Markov Manor with the big statue and all of the kind of the werewolves and the vampires looking at Edgar Markov, the big statue of Edgar Markov. They talked about that in two different places in Markov Manor, at the entrance, and then later on inside Jace sees another one. I want to see that. It sounded really cool, and I was trying to look in the pictures to see it, and it looks like there's something kind of at the entrance there. You can kind of see something, but it's not detailed, you know, by any means, and I would love to see that depicted in the art, especially because the art in this entire set has just been knocking it out of the park.
Incredible.
It's absolutely perfect. But yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see if they depict that in a card, or even if it's in the background of a card somewhere where that statue is there. You know, that's kind of my hope and my wish for the set at some point, or the block at some point. Even if we see it in Eldritch Moon, that's fine. But we see Jace kind of being a little crazy.
Yeah.
Because narratively, I thought this was a little weird, and I mentioned this to Amy, and you didn't think that this was as big of a problem, but I'll mention it because I did. Where they kind of, in the first paragraph or two of the story, it's told from a third-person perspective. Third-person omnipotent perspective, where they're saying, okay, now Jace is going to do this, and Jace is going to do that, and then Jace does this. And then they show, I think what was the first picture, but it was a picture, whether it was the first one or not. They show a picture, and then right after that picture, it goes to, I do this, and I do that, and I feel this way, and I feel that way. And now we're looking at it from Jace's perspective, and that's how it is for the rest of the story, which is a considerable amount, especially in comparison to the 2 paragraphs or whatever that it was in third person. Mm-hmm. So now you're going to first person perspective of Jace, and Amy has said that she's seen that before. I'm not going to ask her right now to like name the story where she's seen it before, but to me, that seems odd, right? To go from a third-person omnipotent perspective for 2 paragraphs in a short story, which is truly what this is, and to then go to a first-person perspective for the entirety of the rest of the story. It just seemed very jarring, no pun intended. Very, I didn't mean to do that, but it was very jarring to me to kind of go from one point to the other, and in the middle of the story, I felt the need to stop and mention that to Amy. I was like, this is weird. Why are we looking at it from Jace's perspective all of a sudden? Because the story does kind of lend itself to being told from Jace's perspective. I won't deny that, but then why not have that be that way from the beginning? Yeah. Why have those 2 paragraphs of third person omnipotent? It just doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense now. I personally think that everything they do has a purpose.
I hope so, because...
And so we just don't know what that is yet.
I hope so, because that would make the Gitrog monster story from the last episode make a hell of a lot more sense to me. Because right now it seems really disjointed and making no sense. We'll see. But
everything will come together in the end. I'm confident.
I hope so. I genuinely hope so. At this point, honestly, and I guess this is a really good thing, I want to know what happened. Like, what happened? I get that what happened at Markov Manor was Nahiri. I get that. I've seen that in the cards. I get that Avacyn's crazy. If you look at Anguished Unmaking as a card, which is a fantastic card, if you look at Anguished Unmaking as a card, it looks like Sorin will be found in this set, in this story, because obviously Sorin is a card as well, Grim Nemesis, but Sorin is found, and Sorin seems to be the one to either attempt and or succeed in killing Avacyn, or at least getting rid of her in some way. Anguished Unmaking shows us that. But what happened? You know, I want to know, and that's a good thing, right? You know, we have to investigate the mystery, and we have clues and things like that, and hopefully all of that does truly come together in that, oh, there was a clue in episode 1, and there was a clue in episode 2, and a clue in episode 3. I hope that that truly happens. I hope that all of those things come to pass, and that it all comes together, and that we can sit here in a couple of weeks, because we will be doing all of these episodes, but that we can sit here in a couple of weeks and be like, my mind was blown. And we can sit here and be like, remember in episode 1 when it was this, and in episode 2 when it was this?
Remember these little tidbits that we didn't understand? Well, now we do.
Yeah. And to be fair, we've been saying that all along, right? That, like, you know, we'll have to wait and see in the future what sense this story makes for the entire story. I'd love to know what happened to Tamio. We have Tamio's journal. Genric has it. Who's Genric? He's just some dude who's now in a wall, whose memories Jace has from walking through the building. And as Jace walks out, he kind of, the influence has been drained from him a little bit. And so you get to kind of get a little bit more information from Jace's head of, you know, okay, well, it was a psychic kind of trail remaining in the building, but in the beginning he talked about whether it was a Geist, meaning a ghost, right, or not. And that was Amy's guess way in the beginning when I had no idea what the hell was going on. Amy was like, it's a ghost. It's clearly a ghost.
Yeah, I mean, all the typical things that you hear people say about ghosts. Oh, you know, something's moving, but then there's no wind.
The tapestry.
You know? Mm-hmm. Or, you know, I have like this thought pop into my head, but it's not something that I thought of, yep, or would think, you know, as if somebody planted that thought in their head.
Or Jace was talking, but he didn't remember saying the words, but it was his own voice.
Right.
Or, you know what I thought was interesting? We talked about, 2 episodes ago, we talked about Jace and Liliana and how Amy said they're exes, and they had that weird, like, sexual tension moment where they were, like, super close to one another, and Liliana was like, don't flatter yourself, and, like, told them to sleep in the dungeon. He says at one point, he hears Liliana's voice, and he's like, Liliana's not here, she wouldn't come here. And then he says, this is wrong, Liliana is mine. She was taken from my mind. But it was just a weird way of putting it. Like, it wasn't Liliana's voice is in my memory. He said Liliana is mine.
Yeah.
But does that mean that was Jace or that was Genric? Who's Genric? You know that...
Well, I mean, to me, that piece of dialogue meant that Liliana, that's mine. As in, that's from my mind, right, not from the mind of whoever is embedding things in my mind so that I know it.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Right. No, that totally makes sense. Especially because, like, we don't know who Genric is. Presumably Genric, as a random human, has not necessarily met Liliana and then is just walking around Markov Manor later on.
Right. Like, I mean, now we know that he knows Tamio. But
we know that he has Tamio's journal. I don't know that he met Tamio.
Well, no, but Jace said that she entrusted him to finish writing things in the journal for her.
Did he say that, or did he just write things in the journal? I don't remember. You could be okay. I don't. Maybe I completely forgot. I blanked that out. That's fine. I mean, maybe I totally blanked that out.
Or at least that was Jace's interpretation of it.
I just think it's interesting that, like, because again, talking about the timeline thing, the reason I brought it up is because Tamio was around when Avacyn was going crazy. So, but is now not around, seemingly. I mean, she's not in this set. It's totally possible that she'll be in the next one. It's also very likely Liliana will be a card in the next set. And so then maybe you go from 4 planeswalkers to 2, because I don't know of any other planeswalkers on the plane. You've already got 4 in this set, and yet you know about Liliana.
Well, maybe some more will come over, too.
Depending on what it is.
I mean, in Battle for Zendikar and of the Gatewatch, obviously we had a ton of planeswalkers that from different planes that all came to Zendikar in order to save Zendikar from the Eldrazi. So if whatever this thing is, whether it's Emrakul or whatever else,
or just the moon,
the Eldritch Moon or whatever it is that's causing this issue, if it's a really big issue, maybe some other planeswalkers are going to show up.
Maybe. We'll see. I who knows, and who knows. This set is huge. We'll talk about that more as we get into actual card openings. That's not necessarily so much for JaAR, but when we get into the actual pre-release kit openings and stuff, stay tuned to the channel. We'll do that plug at the end. But this story was cool. I liked it a lot. I thought that it was very confusing, but I think this is going to be one of the ones where, as you talked about, or as we talked about, when 5 episodes from now or whatever, we're going to be able to go back and be like, yes, Jace talked about that in Mystery of Markov Manor. Like, I feel like this is very much one of those stories where you're like, okay, we have to see what's going on. I don't know. We'll see as it gets closer. We'll see what's going on.
I don't know. You say it was confusing. I can't say I agree.
Okay. Fair enough. So, that was my opinion. That's Amy's opinion. That's why we're here reviewing.
Put your opinion in the comments.
Yeah, totally. I mean, because again, we're not supposed to be agreeing the whole time. That's not the point of this show. We're different people. We have different opinions, so that's totally fine. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments down below of this story, of this video. We totally appreciate constructive criticism, feedback on our end. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Let us know what you thought there. Stay tuned to the channel. If you guys subscribe, tonight is the pre-release. I am so excited. I'm really looking forward to it. We have a lot of cool stuff planned for the channel itself. We've got pre-release kits to open. You guys should definitely check that out to see if we get cool stuff. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'd love to get some good cards. We'll be at a pre-release, so you guys should definitely check out all that stuff. I don't want to give too much away. Subscribe. You'll find out when those videos come out. We'll be kind of doing that stuff all night. So thank you guys for watching this video, as always. And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.